I want to start today's video off by sharing a quote from Henry Ford, which I've always liked and drawn back to. And that is, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. I think that quote applies quite fittingly to the Browns' new stadium proposal. Because I know not everyone is on board with the Browns moving from Cleveland to Brook Park, leaving downtown, and all the history and the nostalgia of playing right by the lake. But I think this is a prime example of people not knowing what they really want. Like 100 years ago, when people thought they wanted faster horses and Henry Ford knew, no, you're going to want a car. For anyone that's not on board with the Browns leaving downtown and going to Brook Park and building a dome stadium, I've got news for you. You're going to be on board when the first game in December rolls around and you're not freezing your ass off. Now, for anyone saying that the Browns have some great home field advantage playing by the lake, I would love to see this advantage at any point peek its head through since 1999. Because it definitely didn't help him out for 2016 or 2017. So, yeah, not buying that logic at all. But we're going to share some of the pictures the Browns released, and I'll give you my reaction to it. But let me just open up by saying, I love it. I'm a big fan of this. I've been trending this way for a long time. I was team, no, stay by the lake, stay with an open roof stadium, have the home field advantage with the cold weather. And then, like I said before, 2 years ago when the Saints came to town with the Browns' playoff hopes hanging on by a thread and a Southern team beat the Browns at negative 20 degrees, I realized so there's no advantage against Southern teams in the winter months at home, and we're going to watch them lose and freeze our asses off at the same time. Yeah, I'd rather do that at least in a nice, warm, climate-controlled stadium. So, for that reason, I switched sides. But let's talk about the stadium. I'll throw some pictures of the renderings up. The Browns revealed this yesterday. Apologies for not getting a video out yesterday. I was off and had some errands to do when it all happened. But this stadium looks awesome to me. Like, it kind of looks a little bit like a Menards on steroids or a huge Home Depot from above. Like, kind of looks like a big garage. But I think it looks really cool inside. And all along, like, I think the Browns' plan was to go get a dome stadium. And we'll get to some of the financial side of things in a little bit, but let's just talk about the video and the pictures that the Browns released of their stadium proposal and what we all think of it and initial reaction. One, like I said, it looks awesome, I think, and it's got so many functions to it. I mean, the video shared how it's not just going to be for Browns games, but they can have concerts there, NCAA games, Final Fours, esports championships or whatever. Outside, there's an ice skating rink in the winter. They can have concerts there. Like, if you think about most NFL stadiums, they host 8 to 9 games, and then they just sit vacant for half of the year. Like, the Browns are clearly going to maximize this 2.5, and that's about what it would cost, by the way, 2.4 up to $2.5 billion investment with year-round entertainment, which sure, you got like WWE coming to the Cleveland Browns Stadium last week, a week and a half ago, or whatever. But outside of that, let's not pretend like there's a whole bunch of fun stuff going on there during the spring and summer months before the football season gets underway. So I think it's pretty clear and obvious the plan all along from the Haslams was to build a dome stadium. And once it became apparent that that was not going to happen at the current stadium site, which I read that they were attributing to a couple of reasons, but one reason was because of the lakefront airport just next door pretty much on the opposite side of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That to me is a little bit confusing because the Brook Park location is like across the street from Cleveland International Hopkins. So why couldn't it work? Why can you have a dome there, but you can't have a dome at the lakefront center, lakefront location? I'm not really sure, but I'm sure there's some good explanation. But all along, it's obvious the plan was to get a dome stadium. And if that could not be accomplished at the lakefront location, they were going to move to Brook Park. And the Browns, or maybe the Haslams, I should say, were going to try and put up this goodwill act that they were seriously interested in staying downtown, when in reality, we've been seeing this coming for a long time. they were always going to move to Brook Park, right? And so now we get to see what that's going to look like unfold in front of us. As soon as 2029, as we kind of shift gears into the financial side of things here. So here are the facts and figures. The Browns' current stadium lease is up in 2028. So clock is ticking unless they want to be like the Oakland A's and find a temporary home elsewhere. When they get kicked out, if the city decides you can't stay here for another year, they don't go to year lease or something, they're going to need a new stadium by 2029. It is August of 2024, so we're looking at 5 years. By no means am I an expert in construction. I think it's possible to get a stadium done 5 years. They got to get going soon, though. Ground has to be broken, I would think, over the next couple of months. And that's going to be a little bit tough because the Browns themselves, or I should say the Haslams, Jimmy and Dee Haslam and the Haslam Sports Group, they are contributing 50% to the cost. The cost is $2.4 billion. The Browns want to go in with a private and public operated stadium. So unlike, for example, Stan Kroenke and the Rams, who paid for the entire stadium, the Browns want some public money coming in, which also means the public has some sort of say and, rights to the stadium. It's not just completely owned and operated by the team and the Haslams. But in order to get $1.2 billion from the county, the city, but I'm sure Brook Park's not going to be contributing too much, but more importantly, the state of Ohio, there's going to be a lot of conversations that have to take place in Columbus. And that's probably going to take a little bit of time. Like the Chicago Bears, for example, not too long ago, they released a very similar proposal, in terms of video-wise, the Browns just unveiled about renovating and rebuilding, or not renovating, rebuilding a stadium where they currently reside on a different Great Lake, Lake Michigan lakefront. And the state of Illinois kind of laughed them off, saying yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. This is not going to get done as you guys have planned it out. So we're not at the finish line. I should have probably mentioned that towards the beginning. This is a proposal, but this is clearly what the Browns want to do, and they're going to pursue it, and I'm sure they're going to achieve their goal because the state of Ohio is not as corrupt as Illinois, so they'll probably have a little bit more success on that front. But I think the plan for the city at the current stadium location will be to demolish it and then build up that area. That's something that Haslams also mentioned, saying that they would love to see and Mayor Bibb, we're going to take this stadium, bring it to the ground, put restaurants, bars, hotels, actually create an inviting scene to the shores of Lake Erie, something the city of Cleveland just does not have. And it's a shame because lakefront property is awesome and expensive and so much potential there. And it's just been fumbled by the city for decades at this point. But I'm excited for it. I think you should be as well. There were really just two options the Browns had. It was either a $1 billion renovation at their current location with no dome, and the city contributing $461 million, which, by the way, that $461 million would have just been increased taxes and things like the sin tax, general admission tax to the games. So that money's not just coming out of thin air, of course. Or it was $2.4 billion stadium in Brook Park. Now, the longer the Browns wait on beginning construction for this, the bigger that price tag is going to go up. We've seen because of inflation and just the tail end of COVID, construction costs have skyrocketed pre-2020. So the Browns would be wise to try and get a move on as soon as possible, not just because of the ticker for the stadium lease expiring in 2028, but because of how expensive this will be. Now, the Browns or the Haslams did say that any additional cost beyond $2.4 billion, they will pick the tab up on. So the city, county, state, all that will just be on the hook for $1.2 billion, just $1.2 billion. But I think this is going to be a great move for the Browns. I'm never going to buy into the argument that people give, though, when talking about moving to a dome stadium, that now you get to host Final Fours and Super Bowls. You notice how those arguments always include the letter S at the end? The Vikings built a new stadium, in 2016, 2017. They've hosted a Super Bowl. They've hosted a Final Four. And that's it. You get one if you're not a southern destination warm weather city in the month of February and early April when those events are taking place. But let's not like kid ourselves into, oh, the Browns are going to be in the Super Bowl rotation now. They're going to get Final Fours. No, they'll probably get one of each, and they probably won't get it for either a very, very long time or ever again. And I know it's kind of like a rain cloud, but that one always just kind of grinds my gears of that argument for a dome. Like, yeah, that one Final Four is going to justify this entire complex. No, what is going to justify it is, I mean, actually good weather in December and January, in which usually a miserable time to be outdoors in Cleveland. Like, this offense is not going to be stifled by having horrible winds come off the lake and a field goal kicker that has to use like multiple flags just to get their bearings right. So the weather component being neutralized is fantastic. And I just love the multi-purpose ability of the stadium. Like, the concerts are actually things that you can see come very often, and everything else is going to ensue on a more frequent pace than just one Super Bowl or one Final Four. But I can't stop saying it. I'm so excited for this. And if you're not on board with it, I guarantee you will change your tune the first time you arrive at the campus and the first time you're there for what should be a very cold, blistering day, and you walk into the stadium and you can take your jacket off and the offense isn't all huddled up like it's the icebox game at Lambeau Field. That's going to be a big sigh of relief and go, yeah, this was right. The easiest comparison I can draw to that was I was very much against the pitch clock being introduced in baseball because I felt like Major League Baseball was catering to a group of people that weren't actually fans of the game and were just telling people why they don't like watching baseball. But even if you bend the knee to them, I didn't believe they would then start watching baseball. And I could have been more wrong. The pitch clock saved baseball. It was awesome. Everyone's on board with it now. I don't think you can find one person that does not like the pitch clock. I think the same thing is going to happen with this stadium. So it's a great proposal by the Haslams Sports Group. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait for, I'm going to call my shot right now, Browns, Steelers, Week 1, 2029, Monday Night Football.